Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. During the Wano arc, Zoro finally was able to demonstrate his use of Conqueror's Haki, a technique that very few in the world are born with, and something that demonstrates that the character not only has an extremely powerful will, but they could end up being a large problem in the future. Now, despite having this incredible ability, Zoro doesn't know how to use it correctly yet. He's used armament Haki and observation Haki quite well, but when it comes to the Conqueror's Haki, he's always done it unconsciously, preventing him from ever using his full potential during combat. This means that some character is gonna have to train Zoro to help him learn to control his Conqueror's Haki and then teach him the techniques where he could become much more powerful, such as Conqueror's coding. That someone could be a character very close to him, someone who has the same technique and could even be his captain. So in today's video, we're gonna talk about the possibility of Luffy teaching Zoro how to use his Conqueror's Haki, when in the story this training might happen, and how strong Zoro might be able to get. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it continues to motivate us to make more content. If you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, as we know, Zoro can use Conqueror's Haki, or the color of the Supreme King, an extremely rare form of Haki whose users claim to have the qualities of the king or some kind of indomitable will, something that only the most powerful characters in our story seem to possess. Thus far, this power has lied dormant inside of Zoro, and he didn't even know he had it. It was first noticed by Kaido after the Emperor was hit by Zoro's 9-sword style attack. And during Zoro's battle against King, when he used his Haki and turned it on, he ended up using it to knock out several low-ranking beast pirates, making him recognize that he did in fact have it, and also showed that he had already gained a certain amount of control over this technique. At the same time, he ended up using the advanced application, where we call it Conqueror's coding, during the match against King, and he was able to infuse it into his 3 swords, with all 3 emitting streams of black lightning, which usually signifies that type of Haki when it's being infused in the story. As the battle went on, Zoro seemed to be able to gain a little bit more conscious control over the advanced technique, infusing it into his 3 swords and also infusing it into the Sandai Kitetsu to deal significant damage to King. But despite having a certain level of control over this application, Zoro doesn't know how to efficiently use the full potential of this incredible power, which is capable of making the wielder able to do some immensely powerful feats. Of the hundreds and hundreds of characters we've met throughout the story of One Piece, large and small, only a few people alive have this ability, including Shanks, Luffy, Silver's Rayleigh, Boa Hancock, Doflamingo, Shinjao, Charlotte Katakuri, Captain Kidd or Eustace Kidd, Sengoku, Roronoa Zoro, Yamato, and Ben Beckman. Now, for the purposes of accuracy, at this point, we're not going to include Kaido and Big Mom, because so far, we don't know if these 2 incredible characters are really still alive after their battle against everyone on Onigashima and sliding into the lava. Now, although the characters I just listed have this ability, few ever manage to unleash its full potential. In fact, we've only seen Shanks using the limits of his Conqueror's Haki with great mastery during the story, and even in One Piece film Red. Now, the current character that is closest to being able to help Zoro to better develop his power is, of course, Luffy, being a very powerful pirate himself, and who has also managed to evolve his Haki during the Wano arc in an extremely short amount of time. Now, Luffy developed his way to manage and evolve his Haki in a fast way, especially because he got support while he was in Udon prison from Old Man Hirogoro, and he also learned about Ryo, to the point that after getting defeated several times by Kaido, he was eventually able to match his strength and eventually defeat him. This means that Luffy could be able to train Zoro if he wants to, something that might happen really soon, so that Zoro can become stronger and finally be able to defeat Mihawk in the future. And this means that he won't just have to improve his sword mastery, but also his Haki level and mastery and control, which is something extremely important within the world of One Piece. Because as it was said by Kaido, Haki can defeat anything. So users who have their Haki at the highest of levels can defeat any opponent they run into. So now that Zoro has Conqueror's Haki, he might be able to put it to a great advantage. Because something we don't have confirmed is whether or not Mihawk is a Conqueror's Haki user. So this means that if Zoro can learn to use his Haki through training with Luffy or somebody else, he will have an even greater chance of being able to not only face Mihawk, but defeat him and become the greatest swordsman in the world. As we've seen throughout the adventure of the Straw Hats. Luffy initially only used his Conqueror's Haki subconsciously, reaching the point where he finally managed to elevate this technique even more, allowing him to get maybe even closer to the level of Shanks. But at first, Luffy pretty much used it just like Zoro, because he didn't realize he actually had this amazing technique lying dormant within him, until he unwittingly used it several times during his adventures on his quest to become the King of the Pirates. The first times that we saw Luffy ever use Conqueror's Haki was during events in which he was in despair or some kind of really deep emotion, using only the most basic skills of this technique, managing to make Motobaro faint. Another time we saw that Luffy was able to stop the Rosy Life Rider's Bison on Amazon Lily Arena to stop Sandersonia from taking the petrified Marguerite's life, as well as knocking out several Kuja warriors in level 5 of Imbel down. He also knocked out attacking wolves, and in Marineford, he knocked out Galdino and an Executioner, along with several other elite Marines and New World pirates. But throughout the course of the 2-year time skip, Rayleigh finally taught Luffy about Conqueror's Haki and allowed the young pirate to gain conscious control over this amazing power, becoming a novice Haki expert. We saw that Luffy's control improved to the point where he could use it on much more determined enemies and even use it close to his allies without affecting them with his Haki. On Fishman Island after the time skip, Luffy was able to knock out 50,000 members of the New Fishman pirates in an instant. However, it was said he could have knocked out all 100 of them in that very location. As he's fought fellow Conqueror Haki users including Don Shinjao, Doflamingo, and Charlotte Katakuri, their clashes created a remarkable lightning-like effect, demonstrating to be a high clash of two powerful Conqueror's Haki users. But one thing that sets Luffy apart is that he possesses a never-before-seen control or ability in his Conqueror's Haki, and it's that he's able to use his Haki even when he's unconscious. As after Kaido had knocked him out, Kaido's pirates tried to approach Luffy, but were instantly knocked unconscious just from the pressure of Luffy's Haki, and this impressed even Kaido. During the attack on Onigashima, and while fighting Kaido, Luffy started to realize how he could infuse himself with Conqueror's Haki, taking it into his arms and legs, which drastically increased his attack power. And in this way, he became one of the few users of Conqueror's Haki known to be able to coat their attacks with the Haki itself, not just armament. So when he was able to combine the color of the Supreme King, his Conqueror's Haki, with his advanced armament Haki, he could land immensely powerful strikes against Kaido, whereas his previous attacks pretty much just glanced off the ancient emperor's tough body. With this advanced technique of armament in Conqueror's Haki, Luffy was even able to clash blows with Kaido and make that epic scene that all of us had been waiting for, where they split the sky. And this is something that demonstrates that the Haki levels of these two opponents were nearly equal. An incredible feat from Luffy, because facing a Yonko is a feat which very few pirates or even Marines could even do. This moment of splitting the sky also signified something that we'd only seen happen in rare other circumstances. For instance, when we saw it happen between Shanks and Whitebeard, or in the past flashback where we saw Roger and Whitebeard clash and split the sky as well. So as such, this might indicate that Luffy's Haki has risen to the same level as some of the strongest pirates in the world, becoming truly a great user of Conqueror's Haki, which means that he could be a great candidate to help Zoro reach the next level, and even approach the same level of Haki should he learn from him. Now, to be fair, we saw that even without that much more advanced knowledge about his Haki, Zoro was able to cut Kaido, causing him to create a scar on the former emperor's chest. So if Zoro manages to learn this technique in the same way as Luffy, he's going to become much stronger than any other opponents that he might face. And it might be this very technique that sets Zoro above and makes him a great opponent and successor to Mihawk. Because even though Mihawk is extremely skilled with the sword and has immense physical strength, he's not going to be able to match blows with Zoro if he doesn't have Conqueror's Haki like Zoro. If Zoro could wield his sword coated in Conqueror's Haki, he'd be able to perform attacks much more powerful than Mihawk himself, truly making him the greatest swordsman in the world. And there's even the possibility that Zoro could break Mihawk's sword. Now, this is something really unlikely to happen because, as we know, Yoru is one of the 12 most powerful swords in the world of One Piece. But how amazing would it be to come full circle when Zoro takes the crown from Mihawk by breaking Yoru just like Yoru did to Zoro so many years ago? As we've seen and learned, When Conqueror's Haki is used at its most advanced stage, it's able to cut practically anything. I mean, it was even able to pierce and cut the skin of the resistant beast Kaido, which demonstrates that even Yoru, no matter how resistant and durable it might be, it could be broken and cut during the clash between Zoro and Mihawk. So my friends, as we can see, Zoro is gonna need Luffy, or at least somebody's help, to get much more powerful. Something that could end up happening quite soon because of all the things that are happening right now in the One Piece manga. Extremely powerful pirates and enemies are emerging, which means that the Straw Hats need to get much stronger. I mean, sure, they got a good bump in Wano, but the road isn't done yet. And this includes Zoro, because he's responsible for protecting the crew in case their captain Luffy is in trouble or off fighting somebody else. So very soon, we're going to be able to see all of the fruits of Zoro's many labors. Throughout his journey, where he strengthened his skills and improved his abilities so that when he faces off against Mihawk in that final battle, it will finally be decided who the greatest swordsman in the world is. Now, win or lose, at this point, the next time that Zoro faces off against Mihawk, he will be able to bring all of his abilities and skills to the table, and we might even get to see a full circle moment where Zoro breaks the sword of his former rival. But with all that said, my friends, we'd now love to know what you think about it. Who do you think is going to be the person that's going to help Zoro level up? Do you think it's going to be Luffy? Or do you think there's perhaps somebody else that might be among Vegapunk's crew, or even on the next island of Elbaf? Next, how do you think the battle and opportunity for Zoro to face off against Mihawk is going to happen? Do you think this is the very end of the story kind of thing? Or is this going to be something that's just going to happen as it does when Oda writes, when it's meant to, and maybe not in the final culmination and, epic battle? And finally, what do you think about our idea that during the final clash, Zoro will be able to cut Yoru in half in that full circle moment I described earlier? Do you think that might be the way that Zoro takes the crown and earns the title of the greatest swordsman in the world? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching, especially those of you who've made it here to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.